When you stop expecting anything back, when it does come back, because you no longer expect it, it means more.
Grownish, smartish, British.
We are British, apparently.
So Omar,
Yeah.
you're in London. You're never ever in London.
Never.
When was the last time were you in London?
I was doing my license with UEFA and I had to stop off for a couple of days from Wales.
When was that?
August. That was only a few days though.
Okay.
But that was the first time in 3 years.
Mad. I feel honoured that you're here.
I'm really, really grateful you had me on.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
last
yeah.
minute, you're just like, yeah, I'm in London for 4 days. I'm like,
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
I'm like, which day can I fit you in?
No, because I genuinely do watch your stuff from over there.
That's amazing.
No, I really, really do. And the title and what you stand for and the whole pod for me is where I grew up. So that's why it makes more sense. So I love that part. So that you had me sold before I started watching the content.
That's it.
And
Yay.
obviously, yeah. So that's how I saw it.
And you're all the way in UAE watching my stuff.
Yeah.
That's it. So for those who don't know, because we obviously didn't do the intro, we got Omar Al-Duri in the building. And I'm excited because you're actually an old school friend.
Yes.
Like we go way back. And mashallah, I watched your journey and your success, and it's just been like we're watching each other from across the seas.
Yeah.
So I tune into your live sometimes and I'm just like, ah. So you're a radio host, you're a football coach, you're an author. Quick promo. We're going to get onto that. You're a husband, you're a son.
Yeah.
And you're an ambassador for fitness and health. So what's predominant for you when it comes to all those titles?
I think first son, husband, then we go into the other things. 'Cause everything else is a product of your society. So how you grow up, where you grow up.
Yeah.
And so you start off with the first person you see until you get to that point where you then become their guardian almost.
Yes, that's how it works.
Yeah.
When if they let you.
There's
stubbornness.
That's absolutely it. It's a stubbornness, right? So that's the first thing. And then after that, my love for football, sports, fitness, everything comes around that. But it started from
young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I remember us like school bus days.
You know, I was thinking of the school bus days.
Like I remember I was like, we went to an Arabic Islamic school for 11. Oh, I went for 11 years. How many years did you go for?
I went from nursery to 11, and then I went back to teach there.
That's amazing. You must have seen it from a different lens. But for probably like a good 4 years or 5 years, we were catching school bus together.
Yeah.
And then eventually when I moved to Fulham, I found out that you lived in Wimbledon side.
Yes.
And we used to catch a train together.
Yes. Yes.
And it's just like, it was weird because a girls' school and a boys' school, and those are the only times we got to speak was like on the school bus.
That's it.
And then on the school journey. What's wrong? Everything good? Don't pull them faces. Sir.
You got to bring him in on the conversation. Have a seat, man.
No, it looked like there was a little technical issue. I'm like, because we've been there before, but it's not his fault. It's not Aladdin's fault, guys. But yeah, no, it's been amazing to see us both, I guess, evolve into who we are today.
Yeah.
I always start each episode with a quote, and you gave me a few quotes.
Yeah.
The one I want to use, I don't know if you know it by heart, but people will forget what you said one. Do you remember it off by heart? Or shall I read it?
Read out. I know it's people forget how you said, but they don't forget how they make you feel, but it's got more into it.
So I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, or people will never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
Why is this in particular a quote that means?
I think because we strive to kind of find our purpose in what we do. And I think when you're involved in like a well-being, health, fitness, you keep giving. And at some point when you start to get used to results and getting people there, you don't expect anything back, but people never forget how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's even more evident post-COVID, post what you've been through, post family, friends, work. one person might say something and they'll go, I'll never forget how you made me feel when you said or when you did, or it could be something so simple.
Yeah.
But it drives from that conversation.
And do you find that when people do say that to you, you're like, rah, like I didn't realize it actually impacted you in that way?
Yeah, because when you stop expecting anything back, when it does come back, because you no longer expect it, it means more. When 100%. You used to expect it, you're kind of waiting.
Yeah, it's just like, when you're ready, hit it.
Yeah. And you want them to fill the gap, and then they don't, and then you just get a bit of disappointment. But when you genuinely let go and accept that, then it means more.
But I think also it means that they've reached a level of wisdom and growth for them to even appreciate what you did for them back then and how it's now impacted them. And upon reflection, they're very grateful for that situation and that scenario, which I think is pretty impressive. Yeah,
it's impressive because I think we all have our journeys. We all go through things, but I think we also develop emotional intelligence. And at that point, past your psyche, past your physical, past all these things, that comes through experience. You can't learn that in a book.
Yeah.
And then when you start to develop that through your own experiences, you then start to be grateful for the smaller things or the things that don't come by every single day.
No, 100%. It's very humbling. So my quote is, time waits for nothing and everything's going to take its time. And that's it's actually a Music Soul Child lyric.
I like that.
I'm a big Music Soul Child fan. If you don't know who he is, you're too young, stop watching. But the concept is we're constantly trying to rush through everything and we want things to happen right now. But we don't also want to accept and embrace the beauty of that everything does take its time and nothing is just going to land when you expect it. And we're just so eager for results. And actually, we have to just pace ourselves and accept the process with it. Yeah. But at the same time, don't take too long trying to do things because before you know it, you'll whether it's like you want to do something in life and you're trying to like procrastinate, just remember like time waits for nothing. So like you need to just take this opportunity and just, I guess, let go of your fears and your self-doubt and just allow yourself to be that version of yourself because before you know it, you're going to be like, yeah, I should have done this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you ever look back at yourself and think, I wish I did this better?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
I think there's just many things. I think from leaving London when I did to like 6 months later wanting to come back and saying, oh, I just made a mistake.
Seriously?
Like, massively. Like big regrets and thinking maybe I shouldn't have done this because I should have gone to Dubai earlier. I should have gone in 2000. I didn't go because of my mum. I should have gone 2004. I didn't go because I wasn't sure. They tried to recruit me 2006 and I was like, oh, I don't know. Then they sold me the dream and then it wasn't the dream.
Was the recruitment? Is this on the football side or radio?
No, this was on at that point it was in health and fitness.
Okay.
So
nice.
They were looking at master trainers to come out and train the trainers before it was something big out in the UAE because they were still kind of developing. And so they sold it to me, and then when I got there, I was like, "This. If I didn't have a leaving due,
you would have just slid back to your desk.
I would have gone straight back home and no shame." But at that point, your ego's in the way, and you're like, "I can't go back now. I can't." Everyone's like high fiving you, like you've made it.
Yeah. You're moving out.
I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything. I got there, and I was like, "Oh, I made a mistake."
Yeah, but did you feel like you had to show face and act like you've made it, or like? Make it look like it's going well.
More than you've made it, you're surviving. Because when you do leave the UK and you're born and raised here and it is you, and then you go to the UAE before it is now the UAE, we're talking ages ago.
When did you move?
2008.
Okay.
So that was recession time.
Okay.
And I had no idea what even the recession was.
Yeah, it's the word that we heard.
Yeah.
It was trending on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd just gone and it was something that I'd already delayed, and then I thought, right, this is the time I need to really try and explore this because I had a 2-year plan out there, but it wasn't in the job that I was at. So, but I didn't know I was going to go on the roller coaster that I did in the 2 years prior to that. Yeah. And so, but the leaving due with
that was the ultimate.
That was the one. I couldn't. All my friends had like, oh, he's going. We all have to get together. We're gonna have one last, gathering and everything, and I'm like, no, I can't go back now.
But you know what? As much as you're saying, oh, I should have, but look where you are today. So you had to go through every single part of those journeys and go through the, oh snap, I didn't expect this, to I guess, push yourself to who you are today and what you've evolved into. So I guess there is no regret in that sense, because you are now shaped into the man you are based on whether it's an L, whether it's an unexpected thing. I guess you went on a high and you were humbled very quickly. But you had to be humbled in order for you to pick up. And I always say, like, in order for you to succeed, you have to fail at something, or you have to go through hardship in order to appreciate success, or in order for you to, like, push yourself into further growth. So I feel like that's what kind of happened for you.
You know what? As nice as that is to hear, and coming from you as well, because obviously we grew up here together. It was not that picture. And it was like, and then as soon as I got there, all the boys here were like, "Yo, so what is it like? So what is it like?" And when you go somewhere on holiday versus when you go live somewhere, already
different. 100%.
Family that I was there left. That's another thing. Visa took 16 months to process. So you're doing visa runs. So that means you have to exit the country and come back in every month for 16 months.
That's a lot of laps.
That's a lot of laps, and I'm not driving. At that point, I'm not driving. I don't have a bank account. My uncle was thinking, because I stayed with my uncle for the first 6 months, because he's like, stay with us and everything. My uncle was thinking, you're out from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m. What are you doing? Who are your friends? Where you going out? Who is she? It's like all these questions, and I'm like, honestly, there's no time for anything but work. Because they sold me the dream, and there was no dream. It was like a picture that wasn't really there. So
from that point, because obviously the reason why I said what I said is because it's upon reflection, not as in that time you're going, well, I must fail in order to succeed, or no, it's just one of those like moments where you kind of think, okay, would I have been the same person I am today had I not experienced this, had I not had to pull myself out this hole, whatever. So when you got to that moment and you realize, okay, whoa, this isn't what I thought it was, what kind of kept you motivated besides the fact that you had a leaving party?
Besides the leaving party, just my mum. I think it's just my mum. At that point, it was just that's the priority. The plan is eventually to get her retired, to come out and move with us out there. And
was that a lot of pressure on yourself?
I think from the age of like 15, 16, when you become the man of the house straight away, you're thinking, okay.
Was it just you and mum growing up?
Yeah, it was. So for me, that's already where she's done everything she can to provide me by going to the school and everything like that. Some people don't even have the opportunity. It's my turn now to say, thank you for that. But then, like you said, I can't go back now. I've the hard part is saying bye, or I'll see you later. And for me, it was like, I want to see her sooner than later. You know how you talked about time earlier? We can't. Time is valuable. We can't. We can't erase that. So for me, it was like, if I go back now, that's her open arms, but that's also like, you should have stayed here.
I don't think your mum would ever say that, but that's what you would feel about yourself. I think especially as men, like, there's this level of pressure that you apply on yourself of expecting to be a certain standard, a certain caliber, especially when you've been raised by a strong woman by herself. You're just like, well, I need to be that and stronger. I need to be that and more successful, because if she's been able to do this, then as a man, I got to be 10 times stronger, because it's just the default setting of a man or expectation of a man, which isn't necessarily 100% fair, but it's the social pressures, and it is what it is.
And how we grew up, where we grew up, what our background is, what our culture says, what our religion, everything, all of that just piles up, and then you build up your own perception of what you need to do, and for me to come back at that point just wasn't an option.
So we mentioned mum. How was it growing up with mum? Like, just you guys in the house?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
That's
amazing. Good. My dad's a genius, so I just got to put that out there. The best at what he does, but that took his life, that took over his life.
Okay.
So as a doctor, again, the only reason why I did sports science and anything sciencey with sports was because I was pressured just to stick to education rather than play sport. So he never watched me play. He never encouraged me to play, because he dealt with people that got injured overnight, and they were earning millions, but then all of a sudden they got no money and their career's over. So his lesson, being Iraqi, his lesson was like, nope, education. So once that that side was out of my life, and I thought, okay, I'm still doing the education, I'm still working. I didn't really have like much of a uni life because I went back to teaching the school that we grew up in.
Yeah.
I went to uni in the morning and I PT'd at night.
Wow.
So that's while I was here.
Yeah.
So it was always like, right, what's the priorities? Even if the boys went out or whatever, if I went out with them on the odd occasion, I still be reporting to work in the morning.
There is no days off for you.
Nah. So it was very different, a different psyche, but
so you're basically, you're saying your dad's a genius. When did you guys split ways? How old were you?
I think it was 16.
So he was basically in your life as a predominant part of your childhood and
yes and no. I think when you're a doctor and when you're on call and when you're dealing with patients the way he was, and so he was always away.
Yeah.
He was always at the hospital, so hardly saw him in that sense. But I'm grateful for the lessons he's taught me as well, because there's some things that he taught me that my mum couldn't.
Yeah, because that was I was going to ask you, like, obviously you being with mum all the time, how do you find, like, because you're, as a mother, like, I was a single mother for a while, and it's just like, it's a lot of, like, you have to just constantly be strong and trying to raise your child and compensate for both parents. But then there's certain things and certain wisdom that you can only really get from a man. Like, whether we like it or not, there is certain things that will only land from a man. I don't know why someone is calling me right now. I'm so sorry.
Do you want to get it?
And hell no. It's an international call as well. I'll be like, yes, uncle. And, you know, as much as sometimes when I hear comments about, single mothers can't do this and they can't raise a man and they can't do, like, I appreciate, like, sometimes it's a bit outlandish how they drop it, but there is some truth in it, which is, you know, which is why I had my son surrounded by loads of other men, like uncles and cousins, and, you know, now my husband, and it's like positive male role models.
Yeah.
Despite your dad being busy, do you feel like he's dropped enough gems in you and certain foundations that you felt like he compensated?
Yeah. I mean, the family from my dad's side are very strong on education and very strong on principles and discipline. So that was something that he instilled. Genetically, what I picked up was his work ethic.
Okay.
But I found that out later.
Yeah.
Through, like, the names. When I was in our school, when we were growing up, anyone that was Iraqi would ask me, "Oh, was your grandfather so and so?" And then you go, "Yeah," and then they'd come and shake my hand, and I wouldn't understand it, and I didn't get it, and I'd come back home and I'd say, "Why are these teachers from our country shaking my hand?" "Oh, because your grandfather did a lot for the country." So, okay, cool.
Okay.
But a surname has two sides. The surname has the grandfather side, and then the second man, the Saddam side, who scares a lot of people.
Like, no, focus on this side, the good side.
So that's why when they say who you related to, I said, well, obviously I'm related to that one, and they're okay, fine. Then they shake your hand. But I didn't know any of that until,
because it's politics. It's heavy politics.
Yeah, and I stayed away from politics growing up.
Yeah.
Because my family's trying to protect me from that.
I was gonna say, did your mum and dad try and shelter you from it?
Yeah. They said never get into it because it's like a limousine. On the outside it's shiny, and then inside there's always something you don't know. And I thought, all right, I'm not gonna even bother. And that's exactly what I till now I couldn't tell. Half the stuff I was like, I'm learning about that because I don't know anything about it. But yeah, from him not being there, it was the best lesson I could have learned.
Okay.
The best lesson, because I had to learn things on the go. I had to pick up things that normally, in a normal scenario, this is how you do this. It's part of my coaching.
Spoon-fed, basically. Yeah.
It's part of my coaching. Obviously, you have the humanitarian side and you have the authoritarian side. The humanitarian side puts arms around you and tells you it's going to be all right. This is listen, get your thing together and let's go. There's two different styles, and that was something that he did really well.
Good.
And in a very assertive way, where I was like, okay.
But you respected it as opposed to try to be a rebel. Because some of us, when we get that authority, we're just like, well, screw you, Dad. I'm going to do what I want to do. I was explaining how I used to, like, fake pray. When, like, my parents used to force me to, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to do it. It's just like, but there's wisdom. Like, just pay attention, damn it. So I respect the fact that you were able to, like, appreciate your dad's, like, lessons and journey and his approach to life. Hey, how do you describe your mum in 3 words?
That's a hard one.
You You can say 3 sentences if it helps.
Unreal. Can't be copied. And just a blessing.
That's amazing. I can see your bond with her. It's a very, very, from young, I saw it in like little glimpses. I never saw your mum often. And I saw recently she was on your radio show.
Yeah.
She's such a G.
She had no idea.
Oh, really?
She had no idea.
She felt like she was part of, like, I felt like she was part of the furniture. She was comfortable.
Oh, she took over.
Yeah.
I think that was the most viewed from all the shows I've done. And I'm next week will be 500. And
Amazing.
that one episode got people relating to their mums through that show. And we were going to a wedding, and we live on one side of the UAE, and the wedding was on the other. And I said, Mum, you've been invited. She's like, oh yeah, she loves the bride and groom. Oh, I'm definitely going. And I said, it's in Sharjah. She goes, okay. And I said, and I still have to go to work. And she was like, okay. And I said, and you're going to be on the show. And she was like, what? I said, yeah. I said, she's like, I don't know what to say. I said, Mum, she tunes into every show. Even when she's here. She'll listen online. She'll tune into every show. She'll make her comments. She'll ask me about the guests. She'll talk to me about Arsenal. She'll just mention everything.
She's fully invested.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So when she was on the show, and in the car, after she found out that she was going to be on the show, she was like, so just prep me. Like, what are we going to do? I said, we're just going to have a conversation. It's exactly how you hear me on the radio.
Yeah.
We do exactly the same thing with you. And she goes, oh, so can you ask me about like Arsenal then? And I said, yeah, we could do
that.
That
element.
Yeah.
She's a real fan, isn't she?
She's a real fan. Yeah, she's a real fan.
Like she started talking about like people and characters and like how she rates them. And I'm just like, Mumsy's proper on it.
Yeah, she's on it. Yeah, she's on it. And the fact that you can see how genuine her passion for the game is. Because normally when like our parents would talk, especially mums, people would be like, well, what does she know? And then when she talks, they're like, oh,
hold up.
She knows the lineup. She knows what's happening. She tunes into every game. So once she came on that show, they got to see a huge part of me through her.
That's amazing.
And it was one of the best things. And I can say it now, we didn't even get it approved because everything with radio and government in the UAE has to be approved.
What prior?
Like, yeah. Running order, guest approval, gate pass, and there's a police station attached to the station. Yeah, they're serious, especially in that emirate. They're serious. So you can't get in without all the above. And the fact that obviously,
slid her in like that.
Yeah, we rode in the same car. So the fact that she was with me, it was it was amazing. And she, until this day, what I loved about that is all the comments she got.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, she got a lot of comments and people that know of her but haven't seen her for a while. All of a sudden they see her on radio and it was on YouTube.
Nice, and it's nice that you're also sharing your mum with the world, like in a very beautiful way because you both share the passion of football.
Yeah.
So you have your mum that loves football.
Yeah.
You love you who coaches and plays. Yeah. And you talk about it all day.
Yeah.
And you're married to a football player.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. We like it a bit.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So did you guys meet on the field?
Yes, we did meet on the field. Maria's got her 9 to 5.
Okay.
So she does her 9 to 5. The football thing only started happening recently, like on an international level.
Yeah, that's mad.
Before that, it was just, I think in the US division D1. I can't say soccer because it kills me, but D1 football out there is big. She did D1 football and then she moved to the UAE to do her masters and she was playing in the same league I was coaching.
Amazing.
But because we had to share the pitches, all the teams had to share the pitches when I coached, her team would be on the other side and my team would be on this side and that's how we first met. But we didn't really get to know each other for a couple of years.
Okay, so you knew of each other, but that was it, like high and by.
Yeah.
So
and I stopped coaching women's football after that.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
So was it love at first header? I don't know. I'm trying to find a terminology.
Do you know what I mean,
in
bro?
it. No, don't you dare. I didn't want to say like love at first kick. Was it love at first?
You thought about it though.
100%. I thought that's weak. So it was harder. I thought header would be harder.
I'll let that one slide. Not a header though.
Hat trick? I don't know. Just
Okay.
give me something.
All right.
Find a better one. Was it love at first?
Kick. What
No, what would you say, Aladdin? Huh?
Shoulders to shoulder bump.
Shoulder
Shoulders
barge.
barge.
That's a long word. That's a long way of saying it.
It's a barge or bump.
Yeah.
Was it love at shoulder to shoulder barge?
Where is this going? No, but I will tell you one thing. When I met her, she thought I was, well, first she thought I was crazy anyway. But when I walked past her, because when I'm coaching or when I'm in football, I don't stray away from the game.
Okay.
So
Quite focused.
yeah, very to the point where she thought I was a bit nuts. But I was walking past her, and she was playing a game, and I said to her, as I was walking past, I said, "You got a great left foot, but you need to shift the ball over because you're too obvious. You're going to go in the same direction. If you actually check your shoulder, you'll know how to." And this is exactly what I said to her. You check your shoulder, you know how much distance there is, then you can go either way. And then I walked off, and she thought, "No, it's just this guy is nuts. Like he didn't even say hello." And it's because she was playing in the tournament that we were all in.
Yeah.
And she was a good player. So I'm not thinking that's going to be my wife. I'm thinking you're wasting your time. In my head, that's the way I'm like, you're wasting that because you're good and everything. And then after that, the community is really small. So we got to kind of come across each other, and she said she saw our sessions going. She was watching our sessions, and she thought they were quite intense.
Okay.
Because in the women's game in the UAE at that point, it was still developing. And I was
Okay.
a big advocate of developing women's football in the Middle East before it became big.
Yeah.
And so before I joined the UAE national team, actually the reason why I joined the UAE women's national team is because the teams I was coaching was playing against them. We were actually winning. We have no right to win against the national team. So then they recruited me to come on board with them. But prior to that, it was quite serious. So when she saw the session, she was like, it reminded her of the US standard, which is quite high out there.
That's compliments to you.
Yeah, well, compliments to the team and maybe my craziness a little bit. But yeah, that's how it started. And then after that, she said, "You think I should join your team for the next season or in the upcoming season?" And I said to her, "You wouldn't look good if you left your team now, because your coach will be disappointed, your teammates will be disappointed, and it looks like you're just trying to go to a winning team."
Yeah.
And it's
Like
not
you're
right.
copping out,
Yeah. So that's how that conversation built up, and then eventually in the next window, the season was over, and some of the girls on the team said, who would you think would add to the puzzle? And I said, well, Maria's one of them, and they went and spoke to her, and then we recruited the season after that.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So it was done in a very tasteful manner rather than her just going, "Bye guys, I'm gone."
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
they chose me.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's cool. How was it obviously trying to coach women in the UAE with the media stereotype of how the Arab world deals with women in general, and then like women football anyway is kind of downplayed a lot and dismissive, but it's kind of building its credentials. When you first started doing that, did you feel like people didn't rate what you were doing because you were training women, or like how hard was it for these women to gain that respect in the industry?
I think it's because when I started coaching a university team, and it happened by chance in the UAE, and that's when I started to come across the female community in football, but they weren't taking it seriously. But my approach also was a bit different at the time, was don't treat them like women. That could come across as two ways. One, well, you have to, obviously they are women. And then the other thing is, well, but how are you going to give them the respect if you're patronizing or if you're condescending? If you're going to treat them like an athlete, treat them like an athlete. The athlete has no gender. So treat them as if they are aspiring athletes. You have to be harsh sometimes.
Yeah.
But they will improve. There is development. There is talent there. Maybe you have to repeat things a couple more times in terms of pattern play or certain things that they may not watch, because again, at that time, they weren't watching as much.
Okay.
So then you have to also factor that. So if for boys, they're watching football, they're playing computer, they're doing all these, they're always watching. But with girls, you can't expect them to always do that.
Yeah. Unless you grow up as a tomboy, like fully one of the boys.
Yeah, or you've got your siblings and they're there and you're watching it as a family, then fair enough. But not everyone's going to do that. So if not everyone's on the same page, that requires more repetition. So for me, that's the way I saw it, and it wasn't for everyone. At that time. And funny enough, with that university, we developed a winning team through that approach. And then once you start to find out what works for you, you stick with it, because you're only going to be judged on your philosophy and not everyone else's. So we started winning things, and then it evolved, and I ended up sponsoring my own team and coaching for free.
Okay, nice.
And then because of that, I won Coach of the Year 2014, and the women were like, that women's team was so good. They got put on the map at that point where they were a serious team.
Amazing. All
of those girls were like so talented, but also really like together. And you had Egyptian, Jamaican, Japanese, Lebanese. You had English,
mix.
Pakistani. You had everything together in that melting pot, which also was a reflection of the UAE at that time.
Because it is very multicultural.
Yes.
Yeah, because a lot of expats.
Yeah, so I used that for coaching, and then eventually the national team recruited me after that.
You should do a podcast called Growing Up UAE-ish.
I like your one more.
There's a lot of expats, isn't it? They kind of feel like they're there, they belong, but they don't belong because they're foreign, they're not nationals. I don't know.
UAE-ish.
Emirati-ish. All right, so your wife's a footballer, you're into football, your mother's a fan. How much does that make your life like a blessing and a half? Is that not like a very unique position to be in?
It's very unique, but it's also trying to enjoy the other things as well.
Beyond football? Okay.
So with Maria, she's captain of the Pakistan national team. So she's going through things that, you know, when you're involved in international football, you go through, but you learn on the road. You don't learn from a textbook or even a course, because there's certain things that you come across that, again, I didn't have the answers for until I fell in it, and until I was involved in Africa. Then I came across a few things that I thought, wow, okay, so this is how it feels like. So for someone who grew up in the UK, is living in the UAE, working in Senegal, for example, at that time, it's like you're thinking, wow, all right. And then the guys you're coaching, they're from Ghana, and they are playing for their lives because they want the big contracts, and they're under 20s.
This is a big deal for them.
Yeah, and the African Nations Cup is a big deal. So for them, you're not just coaching them, you're looking out for them, and they've got a lot of people and attention around them that is probably swaying them the wrong way. What deals to take, what decisions to make, how to evolve, how to be the person they want you to be rather than the person that you should be. So with all these guys at that time, I only learned that on the road. So now when Maria's talking to me and she's saying, you know, we're going through this, and, you know, what do you think I should do? I said, well, how do you feel? That's the first thing, because I can't tell her what to do.
Then you have to go back to being a husband as opposed to like football mode, business mode.
Yes. How do you feel? Good. Okay. So do you think you can sort this out, or do you think this is for someone else? Right. Then she answers. So she's got all the answers. It's only when
you have to kind of like coach her through it, or probe her through it.
And it's only when I see something that, oh, I made that mistake. So I'll go, listen, I wouldn't advise that, but if you do go that route, this might happen. Now, the other thing is to make sure she feels that it's not I told you so moment if it does. It's just the fact that this is what happened to me, and I made a stupid mistake with this, Maria, and you can't be doing this. So if you decide to do this, these are the things that could be the result of it.
So be mindful of it.
Yes. And that is the key word. So mindful that this might happen. And in her mind, she's thinking, oh no, I remember when you had to go to that.
She remembers how that looked like.
So then she will make her own decision, and then we'll get through it together. But it will be her step first, then my step second. Rather than my step first and then her step second. That's
amazing. The fact that you were able to build that dialogue with her and the mindfulness of how you speak. Because I think it must be hard that you're both in the same industry and you live together and obviously you're romantic together, but then you're having to have all these conversations. It's like, how do you to separate your boundaries so you can actually, because I guess it can also hinder your relationship if you're constantly on football mode, and then there's like passions there because there's a lot of pressure. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to like, it's not competitive amongst each other, but just, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's also because I had this thing back in the day when I was coaching her. I had this thing where I used to say, why can't you play with guys? How are you going to improve? So afterwards, that kind of got me into it a bit, because then when she's like, are you playing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm playing with the boys on Friday. All right, cool. Can I play? I'd be like, that's my only day off. But yeah, okay, cool. You can come and play. So then she would come and join us.
Yeah.
And because they know she's my wife and that there's respect there. But at the same time, I then don't want you to take it easy because she's coming to improve. She ain't coming to for you guys to take it easy on her.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she does come on the pitch, everyone's like, oh, the captain of Pakistani, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, she's physical. She runs, she sprints, she does everything. Amazing. So I'm like, good. But we communicate through the way that she would look at me as if I was coaching.
Okay.
So when I was coaching, for example, I wouldn't have to shout or say, you need to be there or you need to do this. I would just be looking at her and then looking away as in you should have taken a step back. And then we kind of build that dialogue through the way we look at each other. So now when we're playing, it's the same thing. But I say to her, listen, I'm not here to coach now. I just want to enjoy it. And I only play once a week. I coach 3 times a week in the men's league now. And I don't want to be coaching on my day off. I just want to enjoy it. This is me time. This
is me time. But I was going to say, so you kind of mentioned something very quickly in that statement. You said, oh, but this is my only day off.
Yes.
So what's your escapism that allows you to not be a father, not be a wife, not be a son, not to be a husband? What is it you do for you that allows you to just be Omar?
The way that I reset is away from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So my environment, my space, breath work, I do quite a bit. I used to do quite a lot of things like ice baths and stuff.
I saw.
Yeah.
I have it actually written here. I wrote ice baths.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Yeah. There was a lot of things that I was kind of finding myself doing, which was my time.
Mm-hmm.
And doing things where even when I was exhausted after work, coming back at 11 or whatever it was, I would then take 2 hours to myself. And that would, because I know Maria would be asleep. I know my mum would be asleep.
Yeah.
I need those 2 hours psychologically for me. And that's where, whether it was music, whether it was just doing something whether it was playing FIFA or whatever it was, it was just my time.
Yeah, it's like a selfish moment for you.
Yeah. And rather than doing the 5 a.m. club, I'd probably do the midnight club where I'd have 2 hours from that point. Even if I'm listening to radio, like UK radio, I'd be listening to out there. I would. And
little home vibe.
Yeah. And those commentators or those people that were talking about it, I would almost say, this is just my grounding to what's happening back home. And I would spend those 2 hours just doing my own thing. And I would make sure scheduling is massive for me. And even color psychology is another one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Without going into too much detail, what is that?
Yeah. So color stimulates the brain in many ways, whether it's through clothing, sight, vision, certain things. And when I schedule in colors. So green is work, like PT, if I'm doing one-on-one clients or if I'm doing coaching. Blue is radio. Pink is my time. And then if it's white, then that's space for me to slot things in without having pressurized to do something.
Okay, nice.
So I'd have that. And commentating would be purple, because I commentate out there. So commentating would be purple. Orange is the team I coach. So after on my show, I interviewed a color psychologist once, and she was saying to me, she's like, so predominantly, what colours? I said black. And she was like, serious? I said, yeah. And I said black top, black shorts, black.
That's me. I live black on black on black.
That's it.
It's my uniform.
Pretty much that's my life uniform.
Yeah.
Before I met her, right? And then
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, there's a lot of things that do stimulate the brain, and I looked into it a bit and listened to plenty of different books and audios and podcasts and stuff, and then I started to implement that in my own thing. Don't get it twisted. When I'm training, I'm still wearing black t-shirt, black shorts, but then I'll rock the socks.
Yeah, it's a bright colour. It's like a block colour at the bottom,
Yes,
at angles.
Yeah. So that's something that I do. But yeah, through all these things, I think you pick up. This is one of the best things about doing what you do, doing what I do, is you get to interview people, you get to learn from people. When they say something, sometimes a light bulb goes off. And for me, that was my light bulb moment where I was like, okay, now how do I implement that in my own life?
Amazing.
And do it quietly, like without preaching about it, because I need to know if it works first.
Yeah. Before you go, guys, look what I learned
Yeah.
today. Everyone jump on board.
Yeah. So
No,
once I got that, then I was like, all right, this works.
Wicked. So how's married life going for you, sir? How long have you been married for now?
3 years.
That's sick.
3 years in a week.
And a week. So
In a week.
In a week.
Yeah.
So what you got planned?
Well, she's not in the country. Yeah, she's on national team duty.
Okay, what does
Now,
that mean? I'm so sorry.
That
I'm not
means that
part of
she's playing for her national team.
Nice.
And they're on camp for like a month. So before I came to the UK, she was away for a month. Then she goes to Saudi, and she's actually going to be playing in Saudi in end of Jan or mid Jan. Sorry.
Okay, so you won't get to be seeing much of her.
Nah, I won't.
Are you going to pull up?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna. Well, if it was a surprise, you ruined it now. But yeah.
No, it won't be.
No.
It won't be. This won't be out for another couple of weeks.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, no, I will be. I will be there. and she, yeah, she's too big because she knows.
Act surprised.
Yeah.
Maria.
She would actually say, "Are you coming?"
Yeah.
Before anything, because she'd want me to be there.
That's nice.
I think also when you reach that level in your marriage, you don't want to surprise her, 'cause I might throw her off.
Yeah.
And I want her on her A game. So if she's going to be on her A game, she knows I'm going to be there. Then that weight is off her shoulders, and I can kind of just be there, support her from the sideline, and just let her do her thing.
That's amazing, and it's true, because when you're anticipating someone, it almost like there's a level of comfort and warmth, also knowing that person's going to be there, that important person's going to be there, as opposed to a surprise. It's like, I'd rather know that you're coming and I'm anticipating it and I'm excited, rather than he might surprise me, but I don't know if he's actually going to come. If he doesn't come, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
So
and then if
cool.
he comes and I didn't think he was coming, then I need to play well now that he's here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just very quickly, like growing up, obviously your mum and dad splitting when you were 16. Did that ever change, or how did it really? Actually, let me ask that again. How did it shape how you viewed, I guess, love and marriage?
I think so. Before I got married, I had an idea of what marriage is, in terms of it has to be perfect and your partner has to be perfect, and we build this stimuli of like perfection. But the truth is that you only aspire to have that when you have a partner, not before you have a partner. So you never actually marry the perfect partner. You only get into it while you start to evolve together and develop together through things you experience in a collaborative process. So for me, that was why it maybe took late compared to what our culture tells us to get married quite early.
Yalla.
Exactly.
Right,
I took my time.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's only been 3 years. That's my first wife and my only wife. So for me, that was a thing. And the other thing is, there's then more pressure to be the perfect husband, the perfect dad, that because you don't have the blueprint. And normally we have a blueprint of what is expected through our parents' actions. And so without that, you then start to think, okay, well, this didn't work for me growing up. This did work for me. I'm going to use that. I'm going to bin that. Yeah. And I have to be
this. That's important. Yeah.
So it definitely gave me a different idea of what I should be like. And I think that probably also affected my mental health, in the sense of, I can't let them down now. Either of them. Before it was just one woman, and that was my mom. And then now it's your mom and your wife. So you have to now like really pick it up now. If you thought you were on your A game with one woman, you got two women to look after now.
Exactly. And they all are very different relationships, and they're very different expectations as well.
Yes.
That's hard. I think also because of your bond with your mother, it's like you want to make sure you don't compromise on what you have while also trying to fill someone else's cup.
Correct.
So that's quite exhausting for you.
Very.
How do you cope with the realities of like trying to do that balancing act?
I think it's because I'm grateful to have both, rather than this can be mentally straining. They both require attention, and they both require support. But what I admire about Maria is she's doing her own thing as well, whilst my mom's retired now. So there has to be that kind of divide between both, like giving both of them time, making sure they both feel like I'm there, but not at the compromise of my own mental health.
Good.
And that's something that I've made very clear to both of them recently.
When did you come to that realization that your mental health has to be something that you put forward?
COVID.
Really?
Yeah. It took that long.
Okay.
So we were only married a year, and then COVID hit. And then we were all
that's a big test.
Yeah. Then we're all locked in. Thankfully, where we are or where we live, it's a bit spacious, so we weren't on top of each other, but we were still around each other. And I think, and especially that we all come from different backgrounds. My mum grew up in Egypt, even though she's not Egyptian.
I heard the accent. I'm like, I saw she's not Egyptian.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. What?
Everyone does think she's Egyptian. So my mum grew up in Egypt.
Is she originally Iraqi?
No, my mum's Saudi.
Okay.
Yeah, my mum is Saudi, fully Saudi.
Okay.
Maria is originally Pakistani, but she grew up in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm Iraqi, but I grew up here. So you mix all those together, and everyone has their way of how they grew up, what
and
they
their
expect,
habits.
and their habits, and what they need to do, and what they think you need to do. But you only learn that when you are on the road, kind of.
100%. It's until you're physically living it. That's when it's the trial and error situation. What was the hardest part during COVID? Like, where's the part where you realize, okay, cool, like I can see that my mental health is being compromised, or my patience is wearing really thin? Were you able to like identify it?
Yeah, I think probably through like breakdown in communication, misunderstandings, things that sometimes, even when you have the right intention and it's not going your way, I think that's even harder, because if you don't have the right intention, it's not going your way, then you can say, well, I came into this with the wrong intention. But when your intent to do well, or do what's best for your partner or for your parent or whatever, and they're not seeing that, you would then question yourself and then go, all right, now you being a coach and you can't even look after your own people.
You're hard on yourself, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
That's a very negative way of wording it, because sometimes so I've been guilty of like having the best of intentions, like my heart, alhamdulillah, like it's very pure, but maybe how I communicate at times might not come across that way, and I'll be like, but I didn't mean it that way. They're like, but this is how we received it.
The delivery.
Yeah.
Right.
And I had to work on my delivery. I didn't realize it. I thought it's fine because people know me, right? You know who I am. But then I realized actually my delivery isn't for everyone. Yeah. So I had to like really take a look at myself. I think, what do I need to change about myself in order for me to be received? But I mean, I guess, yeah, to an extent, screw what people think. Like, you're never going to please everyone. Yeah. But then there's also a level of care that you have to take, and mindfulness when it comes to delivering to people that you love the most, because like, not bending over backwards for them, but it's just that mindful part can go a distance for me. And I think I learned that as well, because I used to clash with people, and I realized, is it really worth it? Like, even though I'm like, what I realized is I'm over explaining myself, trying to explain my intention. They're over explaining why they didn't get it, and it's just like, but this is not productive. Yeah. So I just had to like take a good reflection on myself. What's the most reflective moment that you've had for yourself, where you had to like really take a good look in the mirror?
In general?
Yeah.
I think maybe after my car accident.
Okay. Tell us about that.
I had a life-threatening car accident on my way to coaching. I don't remember much of the incident. I only know the images of what I saw afterwards in terms of the cars and the way they hit. And it was three cars. It was going to Alain, and it was Ramadan time, and I was on my way to coaching, and the scenes of, I can show you that after, I'm just getting goosebumps. The scenes of the cars was just horrendous. And when I woke up with both airbags blown up and the car still moving,
Oh wow.
and me like going onto the side, the first thing I was thinking was, what just happened, and did anyone die? And so stopping the car, getting out of the car, looking across, and then seeing another car, which I'd gone underneath it. So I'd driven underneath it and lifted it. And you can see from the way the car was that, and I was thinking, how did I...
Were you speeding?
No.
So it was just someone just did switch lanes without really letting someone else know.
I was on medication at that time.
Okay.
I'm recovering. So that could have had something to do with it, but that road in Arabic, translated in English, was called the Road of Death.
Oh wow. So
and
it's
I
just
had no
known.
idea.
Okay.
And the police actually told me, do you know what this road is called? And I said, what? He goes, Shara al-Maut. And I was like,
Oh, literally Shara al-Maut.
and I was like, why would you say that? And secondly, I was thinking, is that the first thing you tell someone that's just been in a car? And the four other guys, I looked at them and they were fine. I thought, great. But then in the report, there was a third car because my car was hit from the side as well. So maybe that would have hit me a little bit, and I would have gone underneath
Shifted
that
you
car,
to another car,
and that car would have gone off, and then everything blew up in my face. And I'm lucky that the engine was not at the front, because I would have been dead. Policeman confirmed that the engine was in the middle.
Okay.
And I'd gone underneath the car, so that would have just
Yeah.
gone in pieces. But I think that was, for me, one of the moments where a lot came into perspective. And I've had moments like that.
It's humbling in a weird way. Yeah.
I've had moments like that where I've thought, God, I'm lucky to be alive, you know, that this is... And then I thought, where's my dad? Where's this person? I haven't spoken to that person. I need to bridge this gap. I need to... Why? Because life's too
Good.
short.
Closures. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And did you get to speak to your pops?
He came down. So I
Nice.
hadn't seen him for, I think, 11 years prior to going to the UAE. And then he'd come down. He drove down because he lives in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he lives in the UAE.
Okay.
So he drove down to Alain. And at that point, like what you say, you don't know what to say. I think he's left you when you were a teenager. You're a man now. He's in front of you. You're just glad he's alive. He's glad you're alive. And you don't know what to say.
How was he receiving you after 11 years? Because obviously he's looking at a whole grown man now. Like, he can't give you any like solid words of wisdom, or because you've now evolved. Do you know what I mean?
I think he can always give... I think your dad can always give you wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think... and I think he's also looking at himself. So if I was naughty, that's coming from you. If I made mistakes, that's coming from you. If I was charming, that's coming from you. So there's the pluses, the negatives, there's everything.
It's just the whole package, isn't it? It is what it is.
And it comes from him. But yeah, it was nice to see him. I'm glad that he was right. And the team that I was coaching only realized the magnitude of what just happened when I introduced them to him. Because he'd come to see me at the hotel because I was on my way to coaching. Because I coached that night. After the accident,
You still went ahead and coached?
I had a game.
Business as usual.
I had a game. Yeah, I had a game. So I coached, and people that came on the pitch were looking at me and they thought, we just saw your car totaled. And I didn't want to make eye contact with anyone.
Were you in survival mode still? You think like some adrenaline was still pumping through you?
Yeah, I was just avoiding eye contact. I just didn't want anyone to come up to me. I wanted to finish the game and get off the pitch. We won 1-0.
Well done.
Had to be done. But as soon as that was done, I was walking off, and I remember the technical director, the head of the EFA, he come up to me and goes, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good. You just have an accent?" Yeah.
They're like, this guy's on some, like,
yeah,
proper,
he
like...
is on something.
yeah.
And he's like, have you been to see a doctor? No, I haven't. I will. Okay. let us know if you need anything. Yeah, no, I'm good, and just carrying on walking past, and I was thinking, God. Then the next day my dad came and saw me. I messaged him that night because I was quiet for a good couple of hours.
Yeah, because that's your brain and body trying to
Yeah.
like, I guess, just get the head around it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was concussed. The seatbelt left its mark all over me. Like I was bruised exactly where the seatbelt was, into my hip, across my chest. And I just didn't want to see anyone. I just wanted to be alone, I think. And then he came next day, and then when I introduced him to the players, again, it's weird, I wanted to not run, but just get out of shot again and just go away.
Okay.
And I got quite emotional that day, I remember, and Maria was there, and she said, wow, she's like, I've never seen you cry before. I said, well, that's my dad. And then that was that. But yeah, that was one of the.
But I think that's probably what you needed as well, just to release everything that you're feeling, because
Yeah.
your body, obviously, like, you're withdrawing from people.
Yeah.
I want to get onto your book. Just how much time do we have left, Aladdin? Thank you very much, Aladdin. So I like to speak about reflection, growth, evolving, and you've done this book. Is it 2020 that you've released this?
2019 November, yeah.
And it's got your face in the back. Sorry, that's really cheesy. I shouldn't have done that. So it's about reinventing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk me through Reset, and what made you write this book?
Reset is 20 years of work.
Okay.
You talk about reflection, you talk about resetting. It's a lot of the mistakes that I made to stop and prevent other people from making the same mistakes.
Okay.
It's all about longevity, sustainability. It's got a domino system. There's 5 dominoes. Each domino is a pillar that even if you have 4 dominoes that are great, and a lot of us do have some fantastic things we do well, the one domino, which is the red domino, is the one that can affect the chain reaction.
Okay.
And so whether it is nutrition, which is one that a lot of people talk about, whether it's the physical part, whether it's the mental part, whether it's recovery, or whether it's resetting your environment,
Okay.
you're in charge of what you do.
Agreed.
And you can control all those things through not one answer and not one way. So the book isn't just telling you what to do. It's giving you the tools for you to find yourself in your reset journey. And that's why it's been called a health and fitness passport, because it helps you on your journey and not tell you which journey to take.
Would this book be predominantly targeting people who are into fitness, or can it apply to every single auntie, uncle, niece, nephew?
Every single person, because if it was just for fitness enthusiasts, then it would be a much thicker, dense book. The hardest thing about this book is simplifying it and making it readable for everyone.
Yeah.
Because even when people read it, they've gone, I got through it in a couple of days and it was quite light. And I said, yeah, that was the hardest thing, was making it like a conversation,
almost, yeah.
and to summarize it. And my publisher, when I released it before COVID, said, you're rubbish at marketing. You need to use your platforms, get on the radio, talk about it, do this. And then last year, it was a bestseller at Amazon.
Sick.
And he called me and munched that humble pie, because he said to me, can you imagine if you were a bit more aggressive in your approach, how many more sales you would have done? And I said, the point of this reset book was to be able to simplify something so people can read it.
Yeah, I read some of your reviews and people were like very grateful to how you summarized it and how easy it was to digest, and considering how many years of experience and, you know, everything you're putting into one book for you to be able to do it so beautifully. And I'm actually looking forward to reading it.
Thank you. It took me 4 times to write it.
Seriously?
Yeah, I rewrote it 4 times. I wasn't happy with it.
Why?
Because I was like,
perfectionist in you.
Yeah. And it was like, it needs to come out a certain way. It needs to come out a certain way. And then I was like, but I forgot this, but I forgot that. And then I thought, listen, you need to make it as simple as possible.
Don't complicate the situation.
Don't complicate it.
Yeah, because for some people, they can be overwhelmed. If it is a very complicated read,
Yeah.
they then feel like they're not intelligent enough to read it.
Yeah.
This is going way above their head, or if you get too heavy into something, and it's like, the more simpler it is, literally, it just means everyone can take in something. Are you planning to write another book?
No.
That was a serious,
Quick.
solid
Quick.
no.
Done it once, not doing it again.
Stress.
And I said, no, it's not even the stress. It's I said, I'm going to put everything into this one book. And I'm going to do everything that I can. And as overwhelming as the feedback was and how nice people were and saying, Omar, like, my favorite domino was this one. Or the way you expressed mental fitness through mental health was brilliant. That was my favorite domino. Would you mind elaborating? And that when they said stuff like that, then that makes me feel like I would just want to give back more. But I was like, I can't, nah. I said, it's one and done.
You might have done this already, but have you thought about doing like a podcast segment around this and actually having like almost like Q&As? Because obviously people ask you sub questions, right? Or
Yeah.
they have, and then from there you can just elaborate on each domino. And
That's a great point. In lockdown, my show that 1 month for some reason on radio was cancelled.
okay.
And it was the one show that highlighted mental health at the time. And they just hadn't thought it through at the time, and they made a decision, which was fine. But then what I did is I did a Reset podcast at the time.
Sick.
And
Okay.
it was just that in that time.
Good. Yeah.
And I brought on people that probably wouldn't be allowed to be on my show on radio because it's government normally. So I brought like an artist called Abri, who's like super talented. I brought the voice of Emirates. She's the one that does all the Emirates Airlines.
Yeah,
things
yeah.
and that. So I brought her on. She was great. I brought on, well, now he's a big deal now. This massive celebrity in the UAE who's a radio presenter called Chris Fade. I brought him on as well. And I could never bring them on my show on radio because obviously the approvals, etc.
Yeah.
So I did it through that. And the main question, which I'm going to ask you,
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Lord.
before you wrap up, is how do you reset?
Do you know what? It's weird and it sounds a bit preachy, but firstly, gym was my reset button. But my reset as well for me, it sounds weird, but on an emotional level and a mental well-being level, I've started to use prayers for that.
Nice.
I understand why praying 5 times a day has a purpose. Because sometimes when you're ready to jab someone in the throat, you pray and you're like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm all right now.
Yeah.
But I'm still working on that, I think. I wanted to actually ask you a question. I'm not avoiding the answer. I just don't know what else to say. What's the difference between reinventing yourself and evolving and growing? I feel like reinventing is like you're kind of reshaping completely. But just so I can get more clarity, when it comes to your perception of reinvention versus evolving.
I think evolution is part of reinvention.
Okay.
I think because reinvention is you already have a base there, and you add to that through experience, through evolving, through certain things that you couldn't learn in a book, for example, through personal experiences, through life's lessons, etc. But there's no right or wrong in that. I always like to think, and this is why whenever I talk about reset and I say people are scared to change, but people, when you tell them how much they have that's good, they can evolve on that and add to it. So all it requests is a reset button. If you press that reset button, you're just gonna clear out the cache or the data or the stuff that shouldn't be there. And you go back to your fundamentals. And you start to evolve. So like what you just said now in terms of prayer and spirituality. So I'm big on that. And I love that because for me, that is also a form of reset. And it comes through certain things where, again, you can be vulnerable to what you believe in and nothing's going to take advantage of that because that's what you believe in.
It's your own space as well, your safe space.
Yes. So with evolution and reinventing yourself, when you're reinventing yourself, you're in that situation where you're thinking that, I need to work on things. You already made the first step in acknowledging that.
Yeah.
And so that's the hardest part because a lot of people normally, they're in denial before they reset.
Yeah.
And it requires something,
I think people also have this thing of like imposter syndrome where like the minute they feel like they're doing well, they almost retract themselves and think, well, I'm not deserving of it, or they start self-doubting themselves. What advice would you give someone who kind of, I don't know if you speak a lot about imposter syndrome, but what would you advise someone who does go through it and how to sort of coach themselves out of it?
I think learning how to disconnect and learning how to digest, and what you digest is super important, because disconnection is disconnecting from things that are irrelevant in your path. Digesting is being able to digest something that you feel is part of your palate, your nutrition, your brain. You know, I interviewed the brain coach, Jim Quick, and he said something. He said, we all know what to do, but we don't always do what we know.
Okay.
And that light bulb destroyed that room when he said that to me, because I said, wow. Because we coach and we tell people everything and we give the best advice, but when it comes to us,
it's almost like do as I say, not as I do.
yeah.
And we don't practice what we preach ourselves.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. So for me,
It's
that
hard.
was super key in that movement.
Yeah. Because I can tell someone to, like, you know, believe in yourself, like whatever, forget what everyone thinks. But then when it comes to myself, it's like, but I'm not preaching the same things to me. I'm going, no, I'm doing the opposite.
Yeah.
So I feel like a fraud at times, because I'm just here like pushing this narrative for people, but then I can't hold the same energy for myself. And it's just like,
Fraud's harsh though.
kind of like, you just feel like, am I being genuine or am I being disingenuine to myself? Because I'm giving people this like motivation and, you know, remember your self-worth and this, that. But then I'm like at home, I'm like, okay, the self-doubt's crept in. I'm like contemplating whether I'm good enough for something, but I'm not, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not holding the same energy for myself and the same light that I hold for other people. So it's just like, it makes me feel like, I don't know how to word it.
Here's a question for you.
Oh, God.
It's the radio host coming at me, sorry.
So I like this.
Yeah. So you said that when you wanted to reset, you go to the gym. But when you want to reset your mind, where'd you go?
To God. Prayers, literally.
Does that help?
Yeah, it helps humble my thoughts. It helps. Yeah. Or like having a conversation with my husband.
Nice.
Like being able to just speak. I'll say, listen, I'm venting. I don't know if I need you to reply or not, or like solve the situation, or just say it back, like therapy kind of thing. So I find that when I speak to him, he starts rewording it back as a therapist would. And I'll be like, all right, cool, safe, thank you for the answer. And it's just like, I needed to say it out loud in order for me to sound stupid about how I feel.
Yeah.
And then maybe like reevaluate how I should see things and how I should view and react to things. Don't know if that answers the question, but
It does.
okay, cool. We're running out of time. We run out of time completely. Okay, cool. You mentioned something very quickly about your I don't know if this was the biggest dip that you had, but you said when you were out doing the World Cup, you were on this high, and then you came back home. This is when we spoke through the DMs. And sorry, I can't be serious. And then when you came back home, you kind of reality sort of sunk in. Can you speak to me about that and sort of, I guess, the layers of emotions and feelings that you went through?
Yeah, I was going through a bit of a court case in the UAE before I went out to the African Nations Cup with Ghana, but no one knew that. So that was the first thing I was going through. And then in order to leave the country, I had to replace my passport with someone else's passport to be able to leave the country, because it was a mess that I got myself into. And now who's going to trust you enough with that? And I said it was actually my barber.
Shout out to your barber.
People, man. Sickest people, barbers, I swear. I said to him, listen, this is the situation I'm in. I'm going through a lot at the moment, but I had this opportunity to go to the African Nations Cup with Ghana, under 20s. I'm never going to get this chance again. Because I won Coach of the Year, they scouted me, they put me on a map. An agent reached out to me and said, you have a chance to do this. It's going to be massive. I said, where do I have to go? He said, Senegal. I said, when? He said, last week. You got to go now. So, and then I'm thinking, I need to get my passport, but my passport's with the court. So how do I get that? I have to put someone else's down to release that. And obviously no one's going to put their passport down unless they trust you. So I told my barber, and he said, okay, fine. And he did that. Well, actually, it was funny. He said, oh, you need my passport? He goes, you need a passport? And I said, yeah. He goes, Bilal will give you a passport. The barber next to him.
Right.
And I was like,
just straight
I
nominated.
thought you were going to get. He's like, no, I can't, because I'm going through a visa process. But don't worry, but I'll give you his. So he put his down.
Calm.
And I went, yeah, it's one of those things. But you had best chat at the barbershop. But anyway,
Which
I went
led
down.
to passports.
Yeah. I went down, went to Africa. We got bronze, It's a great experience.
Amazing.
And then I came back, and there was a lot of things in the media at that time, which was really nice. But with everything I was going through, they didn't really know what I was going through. And then I got called up to the World Cup under 20s with Ghana, went to New Zealand again, passport back, this, that, then came back. And then we beat Argentina 3-2. And there's this moment where FIFA, the cameras went to the bench, and I must have been like running out of the dugout to sprint and celebrate. And the doctor, who I was working with a lot with his players, literally just lifted me up, and I jumped over him, and my cousin screenshotted that and said, "Look how happy you look." With everything that I was going through in the UAE, said, "Look how happy you look." I said, "Oh, like it's just an incredible moment." And then we finished the World Cup, came back to the UAE, and then I'm like, what do I do now? You know, when you reach that high, and every kid's dream to be at a World Cup, and I'm there as a coach, and then it's like right back down.
Plummeted. Yeah.
Didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to do myself. I wasn't with my wife at the time. I wasn't married. So I'm like, what do I do now? You know, and it really like...
Was it in a case of just like filling your time, or just going from like this hectic environment to just being alone?
I think just feeling wanted. Like the players were so grateful towards me, and they made me feel great, even though I was coaching them, as I was looking after all their conditioning, their strength work, the technical side of health and fitness. And I spent time with the assistant manager, and we spent a lot of time, to then no longer having 24 people report to you about how they're feeling, what they're doing.
So you like feeling purposeful?
Yeah, I was feeling that. And then I came back to the UAE, and the media loved it. They were like they labeled me as a UAE specialist after all the crap I've been through.
I'll take that.
Yeah. But I was like, I just don't know where to go from here. And then I went into coaching kids again, because I think that I found a good space with kids. And I mean, I've always loved teaching kids and coaching kids, but I think from that point, purpose.
Yeah.
I think just finding.
Yeah, I think teaching kids probably something else completely different as well, just on a nice, small, fulfilling role.
Yeah.
What would you say? Would you say that was your biggest success in regards to doing the World Cup?
Yes, I think so.
What's been your lowest point in life?
The court case. Doing time.
You did time? Don't lie. You get that one low? I mean, you don't brag about it, do you?
You don't really brag about it, do you?
I mean, unless you're a rapper.
Put an album out, call it Reset.
That's it?
Yeah, no.
No? Okay, fine. How long did you do?
It wasn't that long. It was a very short time, but it was long enough for me to realize that I need to change a lot.
Yeah. And it must have been hard on mum? Or mum didn't know for a while?
Nah, I kept that away.
Does she know now?
I mean, if she watches this episode, yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah, no. I mean, I listen, I said to her, there's things I've done that I wasn't proud of, but I think in this scenario, I was more worried about her health.
Yeah.
Because of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be the reason for that.
Yeah, 'cause I've spoken to people who have done time, and it's like there's a lot of shame approaching your parents and having to break their hearts.
Yeah.
And then the first thing a parent would do is like, what did I do to make you become this person?
Yeah.
Or, you know, did I not give you enough love? Or did subhanAllah, there's a way that a parent will always think it's their fault.
Yeah.
The same way you carry everyone like on your head and think it's your responsibility, your duty. As a mother who raised you by herself, she just goes, well, did I fail? SubhanAllah. But then she knows you as this guy and nothing else, and that's amazing. And
especially if you're wrongfully accused of something and you're proven innocent after you've been through 2 years of, you know, stress and hard work and thinking you might go back and everything, then you can't take those 2 years back now. Even though you weren't guilty, you were innocent.
Yeah.
So there was all these things that I was like questioning and hoping that it would be okay. But I think my mental health reached such a point that I didn't know whether it was worth it anymore. And that's the reality. Yeah. So now that's why when it comes to listening to men, women about their mental health, I have all the time.
Yeah. Just very briefly, male mental health in the UAE, what's that narrative like? Because I think in the UK we're very pro pushing a narrative of safe spaces and, you know, male mental health matters. And there's less shame and stigma around it, because obviously there's culture, there's faith, there's different things that kind of box men into being and behaving in a certain manner. What does the ambassadors and the campaigns look like in the UAE?
I think it's bright, but I think it's very early days.
Yeah.
I don't think they're at a stage yet where it's reached like here.
Okay.
You know, but they're on the right track. It's just, it depends who's in the position to be the ambassador, or who's in the position to listen to the people that need it rather than talk about it.
Is there a lot of Arab mentality, like the old school Arab mentality of dismissiveness? Yes,
because the UAE has only been around for 50 years.
Yeah.
So, but you're expecting to hear that. But they are innovative. They do want to do things. They have a happiness center. You know, they're building things, which is great. But the idea is to educate the old school folks to at least not be past it. Because if the new folks are doing it and the old folks are still there, they're going to be like, this wasn't around their time, just get on with it. But if you tell them why, and you show them the rates, and you show them all the seriousness behind suicides and the percentages, then that could be your kids, that could be your son. And at that point, then the older folks would get it. But it's only, unfortunately, we think of cure rather than prevention over cure.
100%. And I think also there's some generations of our generation who have inherited their parents' mindset.
Yep.
'Cause I remember I had some guy say, well, any man that commits suicide is a coward, or any man that goes for mental health has no iman, or anyone who, and it's just like, bro, you're part of the problem. Like you're not taking time out. So do you feel like you have a safe space back home? Do you feel like your friends and your circle when it comes to male mental health?
Yeah, I think because I don't want to say an ambassador, but because I'm a huge advocate of mental health out in the UAE, I think that's why my space, people want to be in that space to talk about it. Because that's a safe space for them.
But do you allow yourself to be vulnerable around them as well?
Yeah, some people I do. It depends what space we're talking. That you have to kind of, it's unfortunate, but you have to control it when you're on radio. You know, because I talk about it a lot on my show, and I open that channel for a lot, where it was the first English speaking show in Sharjah to discuss mental health.
Amazing.
And when people do talk about it, it gives me a sense of pride, because I'm saying we need more of that.
Yeah. And you kind of set the narrative and set the bar.
You try to, you know.
Well done. Be very proud of yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
We've run out of time.
That's great.
Any final bits of words, advice?
When are you guys coming to the UAE?
When you're ready to have us, innit? Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you being open and honest. There's so much more I wanted to talk about, but time is pressed. Maybe when you're back in the UK in a couple of years' time or so.
Summertime.
All right, say no more. Summertime, part 2. Thank you for wearing pink.
My pleasure.
Like, it's working. The color psychology is happening. Can you let people know, for those who don't know who you are, where they can find you, where they can find your book, and any projects that you're working on?
So you can find me. I'm active on social media, on Instagram mainly, at Omar Al-Duri, and my website is omaralduri.com.
Just that straightforward.
Very easy.
Cool. And any projects you're going to be doing coming up? I see you did an Adidas campaign recently.
Yeah.
Pop with the wife.
Yeah. We're trying to do things with purpose at the moment.
Amazing.
So we're selecting the right things to do to be able to get the message out there and raise awareness on reset and just being better.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Guys, you have been listening and watching Growing Up British with myself, Mama Hebz. You can catch me on Instagram. I am Hebz with a Z, or on growingupbritish.h. Also on Instagram, or Mama Hebz on YouTube. Aladdin has been mocking me behind the scenes. Shout out to you. You threw me off. Take care, guys.
Grownish, smartish, British.
We are British, apparently.